Welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we will learn how to create tables and embed them in databases using SQL. The first thing on our agenda today is to load the packages and connect to Google Drive. Also, we would load the Chinook database, which is the database we'll be using for today's exercise. You can see on my Google Colab screen over here on the right-hand side, I have the different SQL packages and the SQL extensions we have to load. I will not spend time discussing those packages or extension because I've reviewed that in a previous video. So if you missed it, please go watch my previous video on how to connect SQLite to Google Colab. So now I'm just going to run out the SQL packages and load the extensions. All right, so now we have the first 3 lines of code all working. Let's connect to the Google Drive. All right, so we're successfully connected to our Google Drive. Now we have to load the Chinook database. Okay, so here is our Chinook database all loaded and looking nice. So in total, we have 11 tables in our Chinook database. So now we move over to the second item on our agenda. So I'm just going to put this as a green, which shows that we've completed that. So the second item is to define our table parameters, right? And create the new table as well as embed it into the Chinook database, right? So let's have a new line of code. And then remember, percentage, and then SQL ensures that we're using the SQL interface for any coding that we do from here. The double dash lines help us to comment inside the SQL code. So I'm just going to say we create the new table and embed it into the Chinook database. So we use the statement called create table, right? Because that's the statement that helps us to create that new table we're looking for, as well as define the parameters within that new table that we want. So let's call the new table shoes, right? So I'm going to call it shoes and then open bracket. And we want our shoe table to have an identity or an identifier, right? And that identifier would be an integer, which you could just have it as int, right? And it should also be a primary key, which is basically a unique key to help us identify the different shoes we have in that table. Now, and then we have the shoe brand, which is the character that has 10 bytes in it. And then also it is not null. And then what's it called? The type of shoe, right? So, which is also going to be a character, 250 bytes, and then not null. And then the color of the shoe. So we're basically describing all the different attributes, right? Or the features of this shoe table, right? So it has an identifier, it has the brand name, it has the type of shoe, it also has the color, right? Which is also a character, and it's 250 bytes. So we say it's not null as well. And then we have the price of the shoe. It's very important for you to put the price there, which is a different type of attribute. It's now decimal, right? And then we say not null as well. And then finally, the description, which is a variable character of 750 bytes. Let's see, no. So we then want to end our statement with a semicolon. So that's basically how we define the parameters, right? And use the create table statement to create that new table. So now I'm going to run the code. Okay, perfect. So once it shows us done with the 2 square brackets closed, it means that that table has been created. But let's make sure it has been created, right? So, percentage SQL, right? And then I'm just going to put a statement, basically. Okay, so let's highlight number 2. We're done with number 2. So we're in number 3 right now, which is basically for us to confirm, that our table has been created. So I'm just going to say, let's check if the table has been created and embedded in the. All right, so select from SQLite. Right, so let's run it. Boom. So remember when we started, we had 11 tables, right? From albums all the way to tracks, right? Now you can see here, we have 12 tables, and you can see our new table in there, which is called shoes. So that shows us that that new table has been created and embedded into our Chinook database, right? So please take note, we're not going to touch any of the 11 tables. We're just going to focus on the new table which we've added, shoes, because the purpose of this exercise is to create new tables, right? Insert some values into it, see those values, and then basically we can delete that table. All right, so let's continue. So now we have confirmed that the table actually exists in our database. We can check that off. And then the next item is to insert values into the new table, right? Because when we created it, it's just an empty table, right? So now let's insert new items into that table and basically see what those items will look like. So, all right, so percentage SQL. And then we use the statement called insert into, right? The SQL statement called insert into, because it would now help us insert those new values into the table called shoot. So basically what we're doing is we're populating that table, right? So we have shoes, and then so we have ID. Remember, all I'm doing now is to call the different attributes of our table, or the different features or columns that our table is consisted of, right? The identifier, the brand, the type, the color, the price, and description, right? So that's what I'm calling now. So ID, brand, type, color, price, and the description. And then we have values, right? What are those values that would go into that table? So let's do it this way. Then do it like this. This way. So 1. So we're saying we're using 1 as the identifier, all right? And then we have our shoe brand is Nike. It's a famous shoe brand, right? And then the shoe type is Air Max. Also really, really popular shoe type from the Nike brand. And then the color is black. And then it costs $200, right? And then the description, we could just say no. And we close that. So let's run it and see. All right, so this is basically how it looks like when we run it, right? It shows us one row's affected. So let's take a look at that row, right? Basically that row has been created. So let's take a look at it. So here is where we use the select retrieve statement in order to retrieve information from our tables. So SQL. So we have select, I'm going to use the wildcard, and then the name of my tables is shoes, all right? So run this. So now can you see the shoe table, right? It shows us that row that contains the first set of data that we have imputed into that row, right? So we've basically taking care of number 4, which is insert values into the new table and also visualize that or retrieve data from that new table. So that's what we've done there. So you can see ID is 1, the brand is Nike, the type is Air Max, and it's color black for $200, and then the description is none. So having done that, right, let's look at how we can delete that table from our database, right? Because remember, this is just an imaginary table we embedded into that database, so we don't want it to be there. Let's say we're done with our analysis and we need to delete it out of there, right? So just do it. Cool. So I'm just going to put a comment so that you know what this one does. Deleting tables, right? So we use the SQL statement called drop tables, right? Or drop table, sorry. It's not plural or anything. And then shoes. Then you close that statement. So you run it and it shows us done with the square bracket, which means that the table called shoes has been removed from our Chinook database, right? So let's confirm, right? I always want to make sure we check it and see that that has actually been removed from there. So that's been deleted. All right, so nope, I spelled that wrongly. All right, this is the moment of truth. Boom. All right, so you can see there that that table called shoes is no longer part of our table list. So we started with 11 tables, we added a new table and took it to 12. We did our analysis with that new table, right? And then we deleted that table, taking it back to 11 tables. So that's how you create a new table in SQL and populate it with different information, right? The other thing I'll probably ask my viewers to do is look at how you can create temporary tables, right? That's probably one challenge I'd give to you. Look at how you can create temporary tables. Temporary tables are a little bit different from permanent tables, which is what we did in this exercise, right? Permanent tables that would stay there even if you refresh the your database, the permanent table would always be there, right? But a temporary table, once you refresh the database, it would go away from your database, right? So you don't have to delete it or drop it, just like what we did here. So my challenge to you is try to create a temporary table and leave a comment on our YouTube channel for those of you that create the temporary table, and maybe share with us what you did in order to create that temporary table. Thank you for tuning in today, and please remember to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.